because as it stands, Ubisoft isn't really doing anything to appease the audiences. They're just kind of pissing everybody off and thinking you'll still buy their slop, and well, people still buy their slop. Okay, yeah, I don't know literally anything about this game, The Crew, but apparently there's been some shady corporate dealings by Ubisoft. Like, they're shutting it down and the devs are mad. So let's find out why. Video from Accursed Farms. Dead Game News, The Crew. I guess it's dead. Rippin' pepperoni.
Welcome to Dead Game News. Though this episode is not going to be a typical news video at all. This is about a month late, though it's months early for the part I really want to talk about. If you think you know everything I'm going to say, I bet you don't, though that's more in the second half.
I don't know anything you're about to say, dude. I'm actually going to speed you up.
First half, on December 14th, Ubisoft announced that they're exactly the bastards I was always afraid they were, and will be shutting down The Crew on March 31st of this year.
Ubisoft, notably perfect and widely loved company. In December, we launched The Crew, our beloved game and franchise. Blah, 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 blah. Extremely proud and thankful. Today, Crew 1, including all its editions and virtual currency packs, will be delisted from all online stores. The game will remain playable until March 31st. For all Crew 1 owners, after this date, it's going to be shut down. Oh, that sucks. Haven't they done this before? Yeah, this seems like a thing that regularly gets done. It's like kind of the sad state of gaming's in modern day, where eventually the games that you spent so much time investing in will just have their servers shut down, and then you can no longer ever access it again. Man, if only there was a way we could like store the games for continual use, whether or not it's connected to an online service. If only we could develop that technology.
So that means starting April, the game will be completely unplayable for everyone who bought it. Now, I predicted this when I made a video on The Crew a few years back, though I got my timing wrong. I thought this was going to happen by 2022. At the time, Ubisoft only had one major game death that I could recall, and that was for an MMO with a subscription fee. So a little bit different situation.
Is this The Crew gameplay, or is this like GTA driving around? I honestly have no idea.
I was basing my time estimate on about how often EA have been shutting down their games, and padded it a little bit. Electronic Arts has been on average a lot faster with their game shutdowns, though they've slowed down in recent years. I think. I can't keep track of all these shutdowns now. As a quick refresher, The Crew is an amazing yet frustrating game in my eyes. It's still one of the largest open-world driving games ever made. If I could mod it the way people mod Elder Scrolls games, then it would easily be an all-time favorite of mine. The sheer breadth of content is enormous.
Well, I mean, it's an online-only game, right? Right? That means you couldn't be able to mod it. They'd have to, you know, make it offline for you. But why would they want to do that? Then you'd only pay once for the game. At best, they want to turn everything into like subscription-based services. There was that they were getting dragged on Twitter recently for I think it was their CEO made a statement that was like players have to be ready to not own their games, and then a lot of people were like, yeah, if we don't own the games then it's not piracy, right? And then Ubisoft was, wait, no, that's not what we meant. Good times.
In my opinion, almost all of its problems can be easily fixed with number value tweaks. The core is good. No other game has come close to representing the United States like this, except arguably The Crew 2, another online-only game that really doesn't need to be online. They'll kill that one later too, but that will take years. I'll predict 2028 to 2030. Oh, and The Crew 2 is honestly a side grade compared to the original in my eyes. While I think the lighting is overall better, some have pointed out how some assets are lower quality.
Oh, that is shameless.
I think the lighting is overall better. Some have pointed out how
Oh my god. And like that could be fixed with texture updates. You don't even have to change the model itself. It's something that you're not always seeing up close, but when you see it, you want it to be distinct.
Some assets are lower quality. They removed the police. It has a different storyline, different music, and the original has some really...
Wait. Isn't the crew about like heists and shit? And there's no police? What's the draw to the game? That you can just do crime, no repercussion? I mean, I guess that makes sense. It would sell.
good composed music in it. Oh, and one thing that bugs the hell out of me is this constant slight blur in the distance that I can't turn off. Even when turning off depth of field. It makes me feel like I have an astigmatism even more than I already do. The Crew 1 has its own issues, but it didn't have this. This right here is why I haven't played the sequel more. I just find this irritating. So it's not really a replacement to the original. It's a different game. Now, I browsed some commentary on this, and I saw a few recurring themes. This isn't the important part, but I just wanted to address some of them quick so the misinformation doesn't spiral out from here. The first is, some people were saying this doesn't matter because barely anyone plays this game because the Steam count is low. Guys, this game is a Uplay exclusive. So yes, you could buy it on Steam, but then you had to connect the game to Uplay. So Steam statistics aren't that useful here because Steam is an unnecessary layer for the Crew. It's running a launcher to run another launcher. Oh, and to muddy things.
Oh yeah, because Ubisoft has their own game launcher. Because like everybody's trying to compete with Steam for that. They want their own. They want their own game platform where you can buy a bunch of games from them, not from the other people, from them.
Things more, Uplay is now called Ubisoft Connect, which I think is a worse name because it has over twice the syllables, but whatever. And let's not forget, a few years ago, Ubisoft was reporting 21 million players in a 2019 report, and the Crew was part of their top.
Wow, a lot of people still playing Assassin's Creed. Man, I kind of miss Splinter Cell. Those were fun.
Top 10 franchises. So this was not a small game, and for a unique game like this with that huge of a peak fan base, there's going to be a lot of diehards out there. But fine, let's say the number of active players is low. So? That's irrelevant. They took money in exchange for a product with a perpetual license. That means it doesn't expire. If Ubisoft doesn't want people to keep playing their games, then they shouldn't have sold them. Or they should have sold them under a subscription license, which mandates exactly—
Oh, dude, don't give them ideas. They want to do that. Fucking, that's horrible. Instead of like you pay once and then be able to play your game, you gotta keep playing your game, or you gotta keep paying every month. And then when you don't pay that month, it's like gone. It's like my biggest problem with World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. I like those games. I can't afford the constant subscription when you gotta be subscribed to like fucking everything. That didn't Ubisoft literally say that last week? Yeah, that was what I brought up a little bit ago, where everything is going to be subscriptions. Gamers need to be ready to not own their games. So they're just begging people to pirate them going forward. Like the most hated game corporation right now is trying to be controversial. And it's paying off for us.
when the play
And by us, I mean people who make content laughing about them.
period ends. Don't lose sight of that. Another comment I saw was people saying how piracy will save us. Well, sometimes, but not for—
No, piracy won't save us, but it'll piss off the owners that want to squeeze every last dollar out of you and they don't actually care about the games themselves. When a lot of the pirates do genuinely care about the game, but they can't, a lot of the time they can't afford a brand new price tag every few months, or to afford another subscription on top of all the things they already pay for.
games as a service. That's kind of the problem. The Crew has never been pirated by anyone. Games that never get pirated tend to die. So the people saying that are just confused, I guess.
Yeah, like the Crew is going to fall into what's the term? Lost media, I guess, where it hasn't been pirated, and the official servers are going away, so it's never going to be playable again, essentially. There are some games that happen to fall into lost media that actually make me really sad, like SD Gundam Capsule Fighter, one of the best experiences for a shooter or a third-person shooter with a Gundam team fighting setting. I really, really enjoyed that, but sadly the servers shut down and there were no private servers that emulated it, so it's just gone.
Speaking of which, another comment I saw a lot of were people saying this is exactly why they buy physical copies, not digital. Okay, I'm beating a dead horse here, but what does this look like? Here you go. PC, Xbox.
It looks like Photoshop, so I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. I'm seeing a lot of physical copies here.
Yeah, like you can also buy a physical copy of World of Warcraft or Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14, but they're still online services games. Those are clearly AI pictures. Yeah, like count the fingers, bro.
And yet, all of them are going to be unplayable starting in April. Physical copies of games don't protect you against anything. Not having to connect to a company server is what protects you. Nothing else matters. You guys are mixing up correlation with causation. Though I'm not sure there's even the correlation now. Now, a few people pointed out to me months back that someone was looking at the executable in a hex editor and found references to an offline mode and a screenshot of a production version of the game.
That is literally infuriating, where there was an online mode in the guts of the programming, but they refused to let that be available. That's just shitting on their actual fans that enjoy the game that are going to miss this. God damn, people need to crack this. I don't even care about the crew, but I think if it's going to fall into lost media anyways, crack it for the offline play. But who knows? Ubisoft might hit them with cease and desist.
Game was posted. Apparently it's just a flag they need to turn on, except it's encrypted, so we can all go to hell, right?
Oh,
maybe.
fuck.
I mean, my fingers are crossed somebody cracks it, but
Come
the
on,
whole
hackers.
point of encryption is to make things difficult to decipher. So
Difficult, but not impossible. Come on, Skid Row.
I'm not holding my breath. Though knowing that a game could be very easily saved just kind of adds insult to injury if that never actually happens. And
Oh, that's 100% true. The people that learn about this and then it still falls into lost media are just going to be extra salty towards Ubisoft.
of course, there were the usual comments saying that since the terms of service said Ubisoft can do this, this is all totally legal. Well, I've discussed that at length in another video, but a quick recap is no. What is happening here is an untested legal gray area that may not hold up in court. But yeah, a unique and remarkable game that millions of people paid for is being destroyed. I'm pretty upset about this, but honestly, I feel almost the same as I did years ago, knowing this is going to happen. I told you, when it comes to games, I'm like that Cyclops from Krull and can see the deaths coming. I hate it. In fact, I hate it so much, I'm getting sick of reporting on this sort of thing and would rather do something. And
God, I can relate to that, but excuse me. What can we actually do, besides keep talking and shitting on Ubisoft? Like, really, what can we do? Vote with our wallets and not pay them? Oh, okay. I think if we can raise public discourse to the point where they just can't ignore it, maybe they will do something, but maybe they'll just middle finger everybody and keep doing the same thing. We don't know. It is Ubisoft.
it hit me. This is actually close to a perfect scenario for taking legal action. Again, the game had 21 million players at one point. Now that number may be misleading since Ubisoft gave the game away for free as a promotion in 2016, but there's a statement.
But Asmund says I should just consume. Who do I listen to? I don't know. Follow your heart. That's what Disney teaches us, right? Oh wait, Disney is corrupt too.
From 4 months earlier that it sold at least 5 million copies. So this is not some small fry game. That's a lot of potential plaintiffs. This is a high-profile game that was sold in stores under a perpetual license, and the buyers are going to be left with nothing.
Wait, so they literally did? They did say perpetual license for this online service? Oh my god. Yeah, I could see a class action starting up, but also, again, I am not a lawmancer. I can't speak for legality of stuff, but I would not be surprised if a class action lawsuit starts up.
This is about as perfect an opportunity as we're going to get to challenge the system on this. So that's exactly what I want to do. But I'm absolutely going to need help, and it's not clear to me what the best course of action is yet. So that's what the second half of this video is. This is essentially going to be a public brainstorming session for how to proceed from here. When I made the Games as a Services fraud video a few years back,
I have watched that picture. I have watched that video. He knows his shit. I like this dude. And typically, when I do really enjoy somebody's content and enjoying their video, I'm not going to, I don't want to watch their full video on stream and just reboot their content. In this case, I don't feel as bad because it's not like a high effort video essay going on. It's driving gameplay over conversation. I'm more than happy to respond, and especially with the second half of this video, as he said, being a public discussion, I'm going to weigh my voice in too.
I was hoping someone else with more free time and competence would pick up the mantle to take action on this problem.
Sorry, dude, I don't have more competence. I just got a few hundred people who watch me on YouTube sometimes.
But unless I'm unaware of it, that hasn't really happened. From my perspective, it feels like if I want games to stop being destroyed, it's still all on me. And that's bad news, because I don't know what I'm doing, nor do I have a lot of free time and resources. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to act under the assumption that this is all on me until I have evidence to the contrary. So one plan I was thinking of, since this game is so widespread, would be to start a class action lawsuit. However, I've never started a lawsuit since, again, I don't know what I'm doing. And when researching how to go about this, I kept running into how having a lawyer start one for you costs about $200 to $650 an hour in the United States.
Jesus. Man, gotta hope there's some whales that feel burned by Ubisoft over this, because 21 million players and all their progress. Bye-bye. It's hard to get a class action off the ground, I think. Don't quote me. But when it does start rolling, and there are people that realize, hey, I might be able to get something out of this, turns heads.
States anyway. Yeah, no, I do not have that kind of money. I mean, I can pony up a few hundred to throw at this, but I have no idea how many hours something like this takes. Probably more than one, which is about what I can afford.
They tell me you're the best lawyer in this town.
Did they also tell you how expensive I am?
Well, you know, if you gotta ask, well, you're out of your league.
Exactly. Now, of course, the one thing I have going for me is you. I'm a medium smallish YouTuber, so if I put out an SOS, we'll probably get some help. So I'm thinking once we have a solid plan, then I could start a fundraiser to try to cover this. Now, we're not doing...
It could also be worthwhile to reach out to people around your size, maybe even some people a little bigger, start getting a lot more conversation going about it. Get people like me to react to your video, I guess. Just get the conversation spreading and growing and get people invested. Though, kind of hard to do that with an older game. I'm pretty sure there would be a lot of people that just want to jump on the bandwagon of hating Ubisoft. So if you played from that angle, you could probably get a lot more people talking about it.
Doing that yet. That's for later. If and only if we come up with a good plan. I do have a donation page on my website, but that's for food and rent for me. That's it. So do not send money there thinking that's going towards covering legal action on Games as a Service. It's not. I want to be clear about that.
Respect for being clear about that. Like, unironic respect.
We're still in the brainstorming phase, not in the probably throwing away our money phase. And speaking of which, this is probably a doomed cause. In the United States. But don't lose hope. We're totally not at the lose hope phase either. First, let's talk about what's likely to happen in the US. One thing I think gets confused about Games as a Service is that there are multiple ways to argue that games shouldn't be destroyed legally. But in my opinion, there's only one good one. One angle is copyright, arguing that there should be an exemption to the DMCA to require games to be playable after support ends. I think that is doomed to fail. Every effort I've seen on this front looks pathetic for the crumbs that are obtained going this route. I will not start a fundraiser and try and argue this from a copyright angle. I don't want.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I wouldn't want to try and go in from the copyright angle. I would want to go in from like I would probably go with the angle of a lot of people have tons of time invested in this, sold under a perpetual license, and you're taking away access to what you sold them as a perpetual license. It sounds like textbook false advertising to me, to my uneducated brain.
I don't want to do anything that will waste our time and money. Only things that might waste our time and money. Another angle is via contract law, which I think is also probably a dead end. When I made the Games as a Services fraud video, one YouTube lawyer gave some commentary on this part.
Some courts actually considered the provisions that we were writing to be unconscionable and they were not actually enforcing them. But over the last 10-15 years, that concept has largely been abandoned and there's been a really much of a uniform decision in all courts across the entire country that they're going to support freedom of contract over concepts of unconscionability.
Frankly, I think it's...
I have no idea what that just said. I am out of my depth here.
Still unconscionable. Killing games is still killing games. But
that's what I'm mad about. I don't personally care about the crew. I do care that it's a game that's it's currently going in the direction of lost media, where the people that do genuinely care about it, that genuinely enjoyed playing it, will never get to experience playing it again. And it's something that very easily could go into like an archive for archive's sake, because there's a lot of games that you can't get any physical copy of anymore, but you can emulate them. And that's with some games, it's the only way. City of Heroes says hi. I say hi back. I miss that game. Sometimes that's the only way that you get to ever play those games. It's just sad. It was finally recovered, but it took 10 years. Jeez. Yeah, it's literally the fate of like all online only games. And I guess the most frustrating part with the crew is that it doesn't have to be online only. They just make it online only because they want to keep you on their servers for whatever reason. Keep pushing you to buy those microtransactions.
But I am inclined to believe him, and that's how this would play out. Contract law is a dead end, since Ubisoft's end-user license agreement says they can pretty much do anything. But remember, this is not a legal document, and they are trying to use this to take away your ownership and evade consumer law. I think the only angle where we have a chance of winning anything in the US is via consumer protection law. But even then,
I don't know anything. Sometimes it's just for anti-cheat because they're lazy. Honestly, if you're cheating in an offline game, who cares? Play the game how you want to play. Don't let it affect other people's experience of trying to enjoy the base game. That's why I don't like cheating in online games, but I don't give a shit if people are going to cheat in an offline game.
Odds are not good. I think the argument to make is that the crew was sold under a perpetual license, not a subscription. So we were being sold a good, not a service. Then the seller rendered the game unusable and deprived it of all value after the point of sale. Now, it's possible that argument won't hold up either, in which case I think there's no possible way to legally stop this practice.
It does seem like that's the most likely to succeed, and we are trying to kind of grasp it at straws with maybes.
At least in the United States. But to the best of my knowledge, this angle has never been tested in court and might actually have some teeth. See, one thing worth considering is while gamers are likely well aware of this problem, non-gamers aren't. Most of them don't realize just how bad consumer practices are in the games industry. They're often surprised when you explain it to them. Now, I've gone over this in length before, so I won't do it all again. I'll just say for non-gamers, a decent analogy for games as a service is like buying a car that you paid full price for, then later, usually a few years down the road, the dealership comes and repossesses your car, even though you paid it off. In any other industry, this would be theft. That's the simple version. The more accurate analogy would be you buy the car, but there's a line in the fine print saying they can destroy the car whenever they want, but they won't tell you when. Then sometime, usually a few years down the line, though not always, they send a signal to your car that melts down the whole thing into a lump, so it's completely unusable. Now you might think, doesn't that still sound illegal? Well, yeah, I think so. Some people confuse it.
But no, it's not illegal, so because it's in the fucking contract. Still, I think it should be illegal. It's pretty fucked up. So Elise, yeah, pretty much.
This with renting, since the practice is similar, except with renting, you're told up front a specified time duration when you can use something, and the prices usually reflect that. The vast majority of games as a service do not do this. They just decide arbitrarily when and if they let you keep using it, but still charge you full price. In practice, you have no guarantees at all. Hence why
God, there should be way more transparency with the games as a service market, but largely I think a lot of the games as service games are pretty predatory. I think we could develop better games that don't have to be services, but what do I know?
Why I want the courts to examine this. But even if you don't give a damn about games and think they're just for kids or whatever, it's about more than that. It's about taking away the concept of ownership. Because the more companies get away with it, the more this comes for real world products as well. And hey, kids do play games. Do you want them slowly learning that they're not allowed to own anything, even when they pay money to buy a product?
That's what some people want. Some people want you to own nothing and be happy about it. Yay, capitalism.
Yeah, that should give them a positive outlook, right? So if you like the idea of owning things that you buy, then you should probably...
Technically, ownership hasn't been true in a very long time. They just have the ability to enforce it now. Yeah, I can see that.
Probably be in favor of pushing back against this practice legally, even if you don't care about games. So that's the argument I hope a lawyer can make to a judge. That people were sold a perpetual license as a good, which the seller took away after the point of sale. And I think the only way of making this case in the United States is by filing a class action lawsuit.
Wait. The way VHS and DVD licensing worked was the same as most things today. I'm confused now. Because I think... Yeah, I'm confused now. I don't know regarding the whether or not you literally own it or if you just own the physical. I think you just own the physical thing. I am not a law person. There were severe limitations that you can't do. Oh. And it was basically a license? Huh. Neat. I just don't know a lot about the legal stuff. Just being honest.
Maybe a lawyer will know a better argument to make. I would be surprised if they do, but I'm open to suggestions. Now, you might be wondering, why would I possibly...
You just happen to have a physical item that would ignore all that? Oh, okay.
...have a fundraiser for a long-shot case if I think the odds are so poor in the United States? Good question. Well, first off, I may not if we can get better plans for other countries. But if we do get a class action lawsuit going on in the US, even if that doesn't succeed, there could still be some benefit to it. Because one of the...
What's going on? We're talking about The Crew from Dead Game News. Or Accursed Flames is talking about how Ubisoft is bad for getting rid of The Crew because they sold the game as a perpetual license kind of thing, and now they're shutting the game down in end of February.
The things that frustrates me about games as a service is that it's a legal gray area. No one can say for certain that destroying a game you pay for is legal, because it hasn't been challenged. Technology has been moving faster than the law for decades. So by challenging its legality, we could turn this into a black and white issue. If we lose, I want to lose hard. If there's no chance of stopping this, I want a judge to say to our faces that when we buy video games, we have no consumer rights and have no ownership of what we pay for. The end. Like that slogan from the World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Hey, it's like I mentioned that.
Except I promise you the judge will not care if we're happy or not. I want a clear as day, definitive answer, one way or the other. Even better if it's easy to quote. Like that Supreme Court case a little while ago where they said if your lawyer could have presented better evidence to exonerate you at the trial, but didn't, then you don't get to submit that after the fact, and the
Wait, you don't get it submitted after the fact? Wow. So once you're found guilty, you don't get to fucking challenge it again after? Even with actual evidence that you didn't do the thing you got convicted of? We're living in a hell world.
prosecution repeatedly said innocence is not enough to overturn a conviction. I want that level of clarity for how the law regards video game ownership.
Man, why can't we have that transparency? Oh yeah, because powerful people don't like being held accountable.
Let us know exactly where we stand. So if we do end up doing this fundraiser, at least in the
True.
US, that's what we're really paying for.
Asmund does say so. Don't think, just consume, eat your slop.
It's an attempt to lift the fog on this gray area. Now, of course, there's a chance, I think, of a judge saying, hey, you're right. A company can't take back your purchase after they sell it to you, and this establishes a precedent. Though I would not be shocked if even that got struck down by a higher court later. But the ambiguity drives me crazy either way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it would really suck if it got shut down. We kind of need this. We need this. We need this. Stop with the selling something. Like, marketing is one thing, and then you just don't deliver on that thing. I thought we already had laws for false advertising. Why don't they apply to video games too?
Well, no, it's not the ambiguity. It's the destroying games you paid for, then hiding behind the ambiguity that drives me crazy. Now, there's also the possibility of Ubisoft's lawyers thinking we may have a point and try to have a no-fault settlement where they pay money but claim no fault on their part legally. In that scenario, if I have any say in the matter, I will push to not accept any offer like that. The point is actually bigger than the game and bigger than Ubisoft. I'm trying to stop games people want to keep and paid money for from being destroyed. Full stop. This might discourage a lot of lawyers, actually, since this stance lowers the odds of them getting a big payday out of this. But what's the point of doing this if we're not trying to stop the practice? That said,
well, for some people, it's literally just the money. But personally, I agree. We need to stop this practice. It's really fucked up that it just keeps happening. And as consumers, we really can't do anything about it. I do think it would go a long way to have a court case come out in our favor, but that's a big if. We can't really force that to happen. Just gotta, at least in my case, you just gotta hope.
there is one settlement I'll accept, which is to patch the crew to make it playable without further support from the company. What's more is if they go that route,
Literally, all they have to do is flip a goddamn switch, and then they don't get any shit at all. Like, you can't play online anymore. Whoop-de-fucking do. As long as you let the player play the offline mode that's already in the game, then nobody would actually be frustrated over this, really. It would be understandable. It's not losing the entire game. We need a union, but for consumers, that would be handy. We need more unions, 100%.
which I bet they won't, then we have a procedure established for how to sue a company over the next big game shutdown, like The Division, Destiny, Titanfall, Need for Speed, For Honor. It's a long list. The case could also get dismissed outright and never even get a hearing. That's a possibility. That's also why the legal venue we use is important. So if one state or district is known to be more sympathetic to consumer rights than another, that would be useful to know. Some more on what we'll actually do at the end, but that's the United States. Trying to stop games from being destroyed in the US is expensive, it's a long shot, and will probably fail. However, I am not nearly as pessimistic about our odds in other countries, specifically much of Europe and to some extent Australia. Frankly, I would give us a 5% chance of success in the US, and possibly a 50% chance inside a European Union country. But I'm just blind guessing. I've mentioned this before.
Yeah, I'm pausing to say that I have no commentary to add to that, because his guess is as good as mine. So we do need to address this shit.
But we don't need a victory in the US to win the war here. If we could get major European countries to rule that sellers removing ownership of a game you paid for is illegal, that would cause shockwaves to the market where game manufacturers will be forced to adapt just to not lose money. Remember, it's not expensive.
You'd go higher for the EU? Really? Like, I know there have been some EU countries that have been like, okay, loot boxes are illegal because it's just gambling, which does give me hope for court rulings regarding video games. So, maybe. Hopefully, somebody can get something off the ground and start, getting people or getting corporations to stop doing this with their games. Their consumer protections are getting really aggressive. I'm liking the sound of that.
Expensive for a company to let buyers keep their games if they plan for that from the start. So we need to make it more expensive not to. Now, Australia and New Zealand appear to have robust consumer protection laws, so I'm all for pushing things there too. However, they are a smaller chunk of the market. The European Union is game, set, and match, though this would probably have to be done country by country and not the EU all at once. I think France is the #1 place to do this, since they seem to have some of the strongest consumer laws of all. But
really? I'm softening up on excuse me. I am softening up on my biases towards the French.
Wherever we can push this, I'm in favor of. And I'm not trying to leave out other countries, but I want to focus on where we can do the most damage to companies destroying games.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about that. Apple's finally moving on to using USB Type-C, like the rest of the world. Because that's just literally the superior charging port. They just wanted you to use their charger, so if you lose it, they can sell you another one.
And much of Europe and Australia seem like the best candidates to me. So, what's the plan? Well, I need your help, if you can help. It varies depending on what you can do. One easy first step is to tally how many people we can actually round up to start a class action lawsuit.
Wait, they're actually being forced to use or to allow other app stores? Wow. I'm actually really that makes me pretty hopeful that fucking Apple and Google are being pushed around by the EU consumer protections. Yeah, that is pretty hope inspiring.
I've set up an email address specifically for this. If you've bought a copy of The Crew or its expansions, email this address and just tell us what country you're in. And if it's
the email being crewemails@protonmail.com. So just in case you have bought The Crew and you're interested in what's been talking about, there's that email to reach out to. Like, hey, I bought The Crew. I'm interested in reaching out. I'm not going to email that personally because I haven't bought The Crew.
It's the United States, what state you're in. That's it. Now, this is just a survey. I don't want you to send me your personal info. Just confirm that you still have some proof of purchase of the game, then let me know. I don't need your full address. I don't need your receipt. I don't even need your name. If the case gets that far, that can all wait for the lawyer later on. I just want to know what kind of numbers we're working with and where. I read in the USA, it usually takes at least 40 people to kick off a class action lawsuit. I'm pretty sure we can clear that bar, even with my limited audience. No,
limited audience, dude's got 300,000 members. So statistically, there's a good chance there might be enough. Fingers crossed.
if you were one of the people who got in on the action while Ubisoft was giving The Crew out for free and never spent a dime on it, good for you. You were wiser than I was. But unfortunately, I don't think that will help us for this particular situation. So this is only for people who spent money on the game in some fashion and have proof of it. Now, where I could really use help is if you think you know how to proceed with what I'm trying to do.
Oh, the note at the bottom is only for The Crew 1, not for The Crew 2. Because there is no current statement about The Crew 2 getting shut down. I imagine something like this could happen again with The Crew 2 if there are no actual repercussions for Ubisoft regarding shutting down Crew 1. So we'll have to wait and see.
Like if you have a legal background, or if you just know how to navigate consumer protection procedures. By all means, contact me. And this can vary by region. Say you don't know anything about US law, but in Germany, you know exactly which organization to contact, what evidence is required, etc., and can walk me through it. Great, please. I need all the help I can get here. I'm flying a bit blind, so backseat drivers are welcome. Now, if you're an actual attorney and are thinking, hey, you want a piece of this, people crowdfunding to pay you and we're prepared to lose the case, then give me a price quote. Let us know how much money we would need to raise, what's likely to happen, and what exactly you could do for us for that amount. Here's a cheat sheet of points I think might help.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Again, our goal, or at least my goal here, is not to get a big payday from this. It's to challenge the legality of companies selling games as goods to customers, then
I definitely, excuse me, I would agree with that part where I don't think this should be a focus on trying to get as much money back out of Ubisoft as possible. It's more of to get Ubisoft in line with how they're handling their businesses and how they're handling their relationship with their games to their customers and all that fun stuff. Because as it stands, Ubisoft isn't really doing anything to appease the audiences. They're just kind of pissing everybody off and thinking you'll still buy their slop, and well, people still buy their slop.
Destroying all of them after the point of sale. Here's my email address. You can contact me about whatever. I will read it, though I can't promise speedy replies. Remember,
for those that didn't see, it was Ross W. Scott. Just in case you need to reach out to him, rosswscott@gmail.com.
You can contact me about whatever. I will read it, though I can't promise speedy replies. Remember, don't get this mixed up with the crew email. This address is if
there. So there's the ways to get in contact with the dude. If you can think of ways to help him out, 100%, shoot him an email. Do what you can, do what you gotta.
For if you bought the crew and have your proof of purchase for it. And this address is for contacting me personally about whatever. People will probably still get these mixed up, but I tried. Now, if you're just a random person and don't have specialized knowledge to help out, then you're in the same boat I'm in, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I do want to emphasize
I can at least use my tiny ass platform to help signal boost a much larger creator on a topic I hopefully see it as just as important as him. I'm doing my part.
That if I don't get the help I need, then there will be no fundraiser, there will be no lawsuit, and this practice will continue unchallenged, at least in the US. Look, I've tried, but I'm not good at navigating this crap. After I did the Games as a Service fraud video, I contacted a few places and it still felt kind of hazy what to do. One of the places I contacted years ago was the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I never got a reply from them. And I actually forgot I did that and emailed them again last month on the crew. Still no reply. So I don't have a lot of pull in this. It's possible this entire thing becomes dead in the water because I just can't get the help I need. In that case, I'll still continue to fumble around trying to make something happen in France. Because again, that court case ruling against Valve on a totally different issue is...
Wait, French court says Valve must allow Steam users to resell games? Really? Holy shit. I didn't expect that would ever come back, because I remember the days when you could take your game to a fucking game store, trade it in, and then get some money and then pick up a new game. But you usually have to trade in like 8 games to get a new game. But still, there's a shitload of Steam games just sitting in my library that I'm never going to play, and there might be people that actually want to play it. So, I don't know, $5, have a game without having to buy full price. But it is kind of weird with digital because there's like no used aspect to it. Like with a disc, the used quality really varies. Sometimes they were so scratched you couldn't play it, and sometimes they were brand new. Like they played it once for 10 minutes and then decided they don't like it, sold it off. But geez, yeah, that's back in 2015. Wow.
Exactly the same legal logic for why games shouldn't be destroyed. But I'll probably surrender outside of that because I just can't figure out what to do. Or afford it. Surrender on fighting this legally, that is. For extra legal preservation, I'm still optimistic about AI extrapolation of assets from games on death row, but that's still prototypal, and if push comes to shove, technically isn't the same thing.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one for like games that are not quite completed and never going to see the light of day, like never going to actually be released. Using AI, I don't like that. I think you'd still get together some developers to actually do that, but you're not going to have an actual studio backing it. Just use people, please.
Thing is saving games. Although, speaking of which, if you have time and drive space to kill, you may want to consider recording as much footage as possible from the crew before it shuts down. In the event of a lawsuit failure, it's possible we could try to recreate a lot of the map from the footage using AI at a later date. I don't think software is there yet for a map the size of the crew's, but it could be eventually. Or hey, maybe we come up with a good plan, but we just can't afford it. It will be too much money to raise for a lawyer. That's another possibility. One of my pet peeves is unrealistic optimism, so I want to be completely upfront with what our chances are. On the flip side, maybe we have multiple good plans, but we can only afford to do one. Say we could push this through the right channels in France and Germany for less than the cost of one lawyer in the US. In that case, I might take no action in the USA and go all in on Europe. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Either way, what I need right now are battle plans. When I did talk to some attorneys after the Games as a Services fraud video, some of them suggested trying to get legislative changes on this. I don't think so. While I do think that has a...
It might be plausible, because you can definitely email your elected representatives and be like, hey, you should do this legislative change to stop the predatory practices in the gaming industry, and like a lot of the time they're going to ignore it, but you can just email them, and you can tell everybody you know to also send in emails and letters and stuff, so they just get flooded with that email, so eventually, hopefully, they don't ignore it, but we live in a fucked system.
Small chance of working, paying for lobbyists is so far outside of my income level, and even what I'm likely to be able to crowdfund, that it may as well be a separate reality. So people saying that aren't wrong,
Fair.
It's just that they may as well be telling us to fund our own space program.
Yeah, like, you need a lot of money to actually start lobbying. But you don't need a whole lot of money to get a bunch of people you know to, I don't know, email your governor and say, hey, or not governor, like your state legislator, whatever. You can just send them emails. They're public officials.
So that's Dead Game News, sort of. I hope we can make something happen. The ball's in your court now, or some of you anyway. We do have time to make plans. The game itself isn't being shut down until April, so no sense in suing them until they actually kill it off. Again, I think this is one of the best opportunities so far to push back against this practice. I mean, games like Overwatch or CSGO have been much bigger shutdowns, but both of those have aspects I think might make them a little murkier to argue in court. The Crew might be the biggest game shutdown where I just can't find any defense at all from a consumer rights perspective. Oh, and if you need...
Yeah, especially with the option, or with that in-game, or not in-game, the in-code option that is just enable offline play. But they don't do that for reasons.
A little more motivation to do something. Just recently, a Ubisoft executive was quoted as saying more people need to get comfortable not...
Oh, there's the article. Yeah. This is the executive that got dragged on Twitter, and a lot of people started responding with, if we don't own our games, then it's not, then piracy is not stealing them from you.
Owning their games before they can get more subscriptions. And of course, there are some quotes to get my blood pressure up as they're killing.
You don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. That's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built into the game or your engagement with the game. So it's the feeling. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. That's not the issue. The issue is that people want to have the autonomy to play the game how they want. Most of the time, it's playing the game how it's developed. Sometimes it's people want to save state or use variable variable changers or whatever, like cheat engine, to make sure they don't die because the game's kind of hard for them, or whatever reason. If it's an online game, it really doesn't matter. But it should still. No, I don't think I can actually make a proper argument for that one. I need to think about it more.
Killing the crew. I mean, I do get a little insulted seeing someone with prominence bold-faced lie about something I care about, but
they will see these games will exist, the service will continue, and you'll be able to access them when you feel like. That's reassuring. Yeah, and then the crew gets shut down. You can never play it again because you can play the crew 2, which is a thing.
And this survey by IGN. Oh my god. I'm not even getting into this. Eyes on the prize, which is legal action.
I didn't even know about that survey by IGN, and I don't want to.
Against Ubisoft. I still think I'm the wrong person for this job, and we could potentially have much better results with someone else running this, but...
You might be the wrong person for this job, Accursed Farms. I'm gonna call you Ark. I'm gonna call you Ark. Okay, so you might be the wrong person for the job, but god damn it, you're one of the only people actually talking about it, so... As far as I'm concerned, right now, you're the right person for the job. Because at least you have some kind of actual emotional investment in this. You actually seem to care about it. So at least you're talking about it. Rallying up people to the cause. It's kind of important.
I'm still here, so yeah.
Poggers. Pretty good video. Glad I got recommended it. That guy is pretty great. I'm actually going to subscribe to him. Yeah, Ubisoft. People don't really like him. It's pretty easy to see why. I've had issues with them before, mostly being that a lot of their games are fairly repetitive. Like, I enjoyed the Assassin's Creed series at first, and then they didn't really change up the formula a whole lot. It's been the same kind of game in different scenarios overall. I did enjoy Black Flag. That actually felt like a change to the formula for me, where they went big into the ship sailing aspect. That was very different for an Assassin's Creed game. I really liked it. And then I just haven't really followed along with them afterwards. I heard there's one that you can be gay, but not really. So that was interesting. Yeah, Ubisoft games are all basically slop. That's the vibe I get, and why I haven't really touched a whole lot of them. The Division 2 was pretty fun. I'll say that. It wasn't anything necessarily groundbreaking. It was kind of a looter shooter. Nothing too different. But that's like a big criticism I have for a lot of the big companies. It's the same kind of stuff over and over. Even if each different company are doing different kinds of stuff, they're doing their kind of stuff and not always really branching out to, try something new. Did someone like that Tom Clad game? Tom Clancy? I really enjoyed Splinter Cell. That was a lot of fun. Wait, was it Splinter Cell? No. Yeah, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Conviction, I think it was. Oh, Ghost Recon. Yeah, I played a little bit of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare 2. Not a whole lot. The main memory I have of that game is trying to play it with my buddy, like my childhood best friend, and my younger brother, and we're taking like hours to get through this mission because it's really hard and we suck. And we finally get to the end of the level. Oh, a chopper's coming down. we're here to evac you. And then my younger brother's like, oh, enemy chopper coming in, fire the rocket launcher. And then we were stuck in the mission. It just didn't end because our escape was blown up by my brother. Yay. But like, mad respect for allowing the player freedom to do that. We were so mad we never played Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare 2 again, but we will always laugh about that mission. But yeah, to summarize and cap things off, Ubisoft's pretty bad. If you did end up paying for the crew, reach out to the dude from the video. He seems to know at least more than I do. Thanks for watching. Like it if you like it, dislike if you didn't. Let me know in the comments why you think I'm wrong. Check out the community on Discord. And remember, if you can't be the sharpest tool in the shed, you can always be the hoe. Just want to take a quick second and thank my beeps who have joined the channel. So thank you to Joestar and Maxi Kitty.